Okay, it looks like we are live on Facebook, and the subject for this video is what is codependency, enmeshment, and hyper independence? What are these three different things? We hear about these terms. What are they in relationships? So I'm going to run through them really quickly. We are covering this topic in the Courageous Love Community private group coaching program. And I wanted to bring this information to you for the sake of clarity, for the sake of your own understanding, for those of you who have these questions, because it came up on my Facebook timeline earlier this weekend, on one of my posts. This conversation came up, and let's just go in. So I've got some slides to share, and I'm determining whether Facebook will let me do this easily. My name, by the way, is Daniel Robertson. I'm an attorney turned relationship coach, and I'm happy to be here with you. This is a public video on my public Facebook profile, so you have the opportunity to comment. I'm going to see if I can see your comments. It looks like you can see my screen now. Okay, and it looks like I'm probably just in the corner, so you can see that. Let's run through what are codependency, enmeshment, and hyperindependence. So this is some slides from the Courageous Love community where we are covering this as one of many topics. Okay, I see somebody joining, and I will keep an eye out for your comments to the best of my ability. Please feel free to, please feel free to leave your comments, questions. I will be happy to read them live while I'm here with you. I love having an opportunity to chat with you. And I'm just making sure that I can see them. Okay, great. All right. And Facebook did a little comment for me. Excellent. Okay, so let's jump in. What are codependency, enmeshment, and hyperindependence? What are these things? And I'm just going to give you some awareness, like some understanding. If you struggled in relationships, you might see that these would be common elements. So we'll make it clear. Yeah, and this is about achieving healthy balance. Anytime there's a one-sided relationship where there's a giver and a taker, that leads to unhealthy balance, and we might look for, because it's probably there, some codependency, enmeshment, or hyperindependence. And correcting for these things, once you understand them, can make a huge difference in your relationship, your experience, both for yourself and your partner. So I'll just start. Here is my favorite definition. So if you're going to take nothing else from this conversation, this is a quote from one of my teachers, James Fishgill. He teaches conscious communication, and I took one of his programs. And I love the way he distills this down. If I see your needs and dismiss mine, I grow codependence. If I see my needs and dismiss yours, I grow independence. And if I see my needs and your needs, I grow interdependence, also known as relationship. If you take nothing else from this conversation, this is very helpful to understand on a broad level, big picture level, what is going on here. We can all imagine, what's it like to be in a relationship where my needs don't matter and yours do, or your needs matter and mine don't, and so on. Okay, why does it matter? Well, we can talk about why does it matter. Where there's unhealthy balance, we see problems like loss of personal identity, low self-esteem, enabling destructive behaviors, lack of healthy boundaries, inability to say no, which could lead to overfunctioning, one partner doing more work for the relationship than the other, emotional exhaustion like chronic stress, anxiety, and burnout, difficulty with independence for the kind of person who always needs to be in a relationship or can't seem to be okay on their own. And this has negative impacts on children, right? Because they're learning these unhealthy dynamics, and they will likely learn to have difficulty with setting boundaries and having healthy self-esteem. But what does it look like when we're healthier? Well, there's a secure sense of personal identity, healthy self-esteem, ability to validate oneself. People who are more healthy will distance themselves from destructive behaviors. They don't want to participate in that or enable that. So these relationships go through a healthy cycle of we'll separate, we'll go do our own thing, whether that's going to work, going to participate in a hobby, but then afterwards coming back together and reconnecting. And this sets a healthy example for children. So what is codependency? Codependency, there are many ways to define codependency, but we'll just define it for the sake of simplicity as excessive emotional or psychological reliance on a partner. Okay, we could see this with an anxious partner who doesn't self-regulate very well and clings to their partner to help themselves feel good. Okay, that would be one example. So what are signs to look for in an individual who's struggling with codependency? Excessive caregiving. They're taking care of everybody else and not taking care of themselves. Low self-esteem, difficulty setting boundaries, fear of abandonment, constantly worrying about their partner, worrying about whether their partner's okay, worrying about whether their partner's upset with them, lack of independence, people pleasing, denial of their own feelings. This is an interesting thing. Somebody with codependency might say, I'm not angry, I'm not upset, I'm totally fine, when they're really not fine. Difficulty expressing needs, seeking validation, enabling destructive behaviors. So this is where the concept originally came from, where we'd see somebody paired up with an alcoholic or somebody abusing drugs, and their partner is enabling them, taking care of the mess, making it possible for them to continue this self-destructive behavior. That's where the term originally came from. And you might see difficulty ending unhealthy relationships if you're codependent, anxiety and stress, and repetitive relationship patterns. Okay, so if these things are, ringing bells, this is a sign of codependency. And this is something to work on to have healthier, happier, well-rounded relationships. Okay, we'll use an example. How about Sarah, a 34-year-old woman, not the woman in the picture. Obviously, this is woman's younger than 34, but Sarah, a 34-year-old woman, has been in relationship with her partner, Mark, for 5 years. She constantly puts Mark's needs above her own, often sacrificing her own well-being to ensure his happiness. Sarah has a history of low self-esteem and relies on Mark's validation for her sense of self-worth. She finds it difficult to set boundaries, often going along with Mark's decisions, even if they conflict with her desires, and she experiences overwhelming anxiety at the thought of him leaving her, despite the relationship being emotionally tumultuous. Sarah's life revolves around Mark, and she has trouble pursuing her own goals and interests independently. Her codependency is affecting her emotional and mental health, leaving her feeling trapped in a relationship that is draining her emotionally. Okay? All right. If this resonates, this is something for you to reflect on. And we'll talk briefly about how to resolve this, right? Okay. So that's what codependency is. What about enmeshment? Enmeshment, all right, I'm going to check and see if there are any comments you're leaving me. Okay, I don't see any comments. So, but I'm just checking in because I'd be happy to respond to you if you have anything to add. But enmeshment, we'll just say for the sake of simplicity that enmeshment is an extreme form of codependency where boundaries between individuals are almost non-existent. So what would we look for in somebody struggling with enmeshment? Loss of personal identity, difficulty making independent decisions, emotional intensity, dependency on the other person, over-involvement in each other's lives, difficulty separating from the other person, lack of personal boundaries, shared responsibility for emotions. It's kind of interesting. Resistance to outside relationships, loss of personal goals, conflict avoidance, and difficulty expressing disagreement. So let's give you a picture of what this is like. Let's talk about Amy's struggle with enmeshment. And of course, this could be with intimate partners or with other family members. We often see it. So Amy, a 28-year-old woman, has a deeply enmeshed relationship with her mother, Mary. They live in the same house, share every detail of their lives, and have an intense emotional connection that blurs the lines between them. Amy's identity is tightly intertwined with her mother's, and she often struggles to make independent decisions without Mary's influence. Her emotional well-being is heavily dependent on her mother's approval and presence, and they frequently engage in intense emotional exchanges and conflicts. Amy's enmeshment with her mother has left her with a limited sense of self, making it challenging for her to establish personal boundaries, pursue her own goals, or engage in healthy relationships outside of her connection with her mother, Mary. Okay, that gives you a picture of what enmeshment is like. Now let's look at, we talked about codependency and enmeshment as an extreme form of codependency. What about the other side of the spectrum, which is hyper-independence? This is someone who is experiencing excessive self-reliance and avoidance of emotional intimacy. So what would we look for there? Difficulty seeking or accepting help, lack of emotional sharing, strong desire for self-sufficiency, tendency to isolate, avoidance of intimacy, fear of dependence. So this could be fear of depending on somebody else or fear of somebody else depending on us. Reluctance to collaborate, struggle with trust, rigidity in independence. Now, this rigidity can be extremely frustrating in a relationship. So if you see a rigidity of independence, that can be very frustrating to somebody's partner. It's like, can you just relax a little bit and be flexible? No, we can't. We're going to be stubborn. Avoidance of vulnerability, difficulty receiving feedback or criticism, and limited social connections. Okay, so we know what to look for. Let's paint a picture. So John, a 40-year-old man, is engaged in a long-term relationship with his partner, Lisa. Despite their commitment, John exhibits signs of hyper-independence, which significantly affects their relationship. He maintains strong emotional distance from Lisa, rarely sharing his feelings or vulnerabilities, and even in times of need. This emotional detachment creates a sense of loneliness and isolation in their relationship as Lisa feels unable to connect with him on a deep level. John often prioritizes self-sufficiency over mutual support, leading to a lack of emotional intimacy. Lisa struggles with the difficulty of getting John to open up, share emotions, and work together as a team. Their relationship feels more like parallel lives rather than a partnership, leaving Lisa yearning for a deeper emotional connection and a more balanced approach to their relationship. Okay? Does that give you a picture? Again, this whole conversation is for your self-awareness, for your awareness. And if you're struggling with these things, you can start to, some light bulbs are going on and you can say, okay, what am I looking for? Is this the root of my problem? What is healthy balance by contrast? This is healthy interdependence, involving mutual support and independence without sacrificing individuality, clear and respectful emotional boundaries, open communication, and the ability to express emotions safely. So what does that look like? Emotional resilience, comfort with intimacy, strong self-esteem, healthy boundaries, effective communication, comfort with independence, conflict resolution skills. I love that. That's my background. Trust in their partners, adaptability. So some flexibility in there. We can negotiate, we can compromise, we can be flexible. Positive expectations. This includes assuming the best intentions from your partner, unless you have reason to believe otherwise. Satisfying and stable relationships, respect for one's partner's independence, effective parenting, and comfort with vulnerability. Okay, good stuff. We got a picture. Well, we'll paint a picture of Emma and David. Emma, a 42-year-old woman, and David, a 45-year-old man, have a shared and loving and balanced relationship for the past 10 years. They celebrate each other's successes and provide comfort in times of need. When David spends a day golfing, Emma feels secure in their relationship, and David reconnects with her by spending quality time at the dinner table in the evening. They communicate openly and honestly about their feelings and their fears. They approach conflicts as opportunities for growth. They both share responsibilities in the relationship, including a fair distribution of household tasks and decision-making, which promotes a sense of partnership. Their relationship is characterized by positive expectations, fostering a sense of optimism and resilience, even during challenging times. That sounds nice, doesn't it? A little bit of, hey, we can separate for a bit. We can come back together and reconnect. We can share responsibilities in partnership. We can care for one another's emotional needs. Sounds pretty nice. So if we're struggling with this, how do we achieve a healthy balance? Okay, for somebody who's on the codependent or enmeshment side of the spectrum, We're looking for self-awareness. Can we acknowledge that that's what we're experiencing? Can we be aware? Practice setting boundaries, build our self-esteem, develop independence, and seek coaching or therapy. For somebody who's on the hyper-independence end of the spectrum, again, self-awareness is going to be extremely important. Can we acknowledge that we are being hyper-independent and the effect that we're having on our partner? Practicing opening up to vulnerability and building trust with others. So I always say start small. Start with something small. That's it. Just, see if we can trust somebody. You don't have to go all in or be extremely vulnerable right at the start. Start small. Practice collaboration and conflict resolution and seek support such as coaching or therapy. And if that's something you're looking for, we have that in the Courageous Love community, a private group coaching program for only $97 a month. And you can start anytime. So feel free to send me a private message if that's something that you're looking for. But I wanted to have this conversation because we just had a conversation on this weekend on my Facebook timeline about what is codependency and enmeshment, and thought it was important to be very clear about what we mean. And so these are important concepts for you to have healthy relationships, for you to be aware of, and what to expect, what to look for. I hope this was helpful. I will check if there are any comments. Okay, I don't see any comments. So I'll go ahead and just sign off for today, but you do know how to reach me. You know how to get in touch with me. You can send me a private message anytime. Again, my name is Daniel Robertson. I'm an attorney turned relationship coach. And I love being here with you. Love chatting with you. We're seeing some great successes in our community today. We were just talking about our wins, talking about our little wins. And group members are sharing greater levels of self-confidence, better boundaries for themselves. One of our group members had plans one evening and realized it was going to cause a lot of stress for her and her children and her family. And so her daughter was actually learning these skills and said, "Mom, if this is going to be so stressful for our family and we still have homework to do and it's getting late, don't you just want to call your friend and tell her we can't make it tonight?" So she was, seeing her daughter learn these skills and being able to set a boundary and saying, yeah, I don't need to stress myself out. I don't need to do this. I don't need to live my whole life like this. She felt bad saying that she would go and then needing to back out, but it was really what was best for her and her family. So it's the right thing to do. And she did it. And another member was just sharing about how she is communicating more openly, and her friends and loved ones are telling her, you are different. You are communicating more openly. You are, you're just showing up with more energy and positivity instead of running away from difficulty. So I'm completely paraphrasing what she said, but it's really great to see these successes. And we're here for anybody else who wants to work on these areas of their own life. So if you've had a pattern of painful or unfulfilling relationships in the past, we're here for you. We're here for the people. The Courageous Love community is really for the people who say, okay, I've realized this is a pattern. I want to break it for my sake and for my children's sake. And I know I need to do some of my own healing and learn some relationship skills so that I can be successful in a relationship. So we're here to bridge that gap for you. And love working with you. I see some people watching. Appreciate you being here with me. And I hope you all have a beautiful day. You know how to reach me.